Hello, my voice probably sounds familiar, and I will reveal who I am. But first, let's discuss something that should sound familiar. The Architect's Accelerator, an online training program that will teach you to become a Power Platform Solutions architect. Whether you're aiming for a higher salary, greater responsibilities at work, or simply want to ensure you're building things right, you will learn advanced technical skills to build enterprise Power Platform solutions with minimal effort. From API integrations to performance and scalability, this course has it all, including Copilot and artificial intelligence, which is why I sound like Stewie Griffin from Family Guy, but I'm not. I'm Sean Astrahan,
creator of the Architect's Accelerator. You can go to untethered365.com to sign up. Use promo code SPRINT0 to save yourself $50. And here's what participants have to say about it.
My name's Mike Colling.
My name is Sander.
Hi, I'm Danielle.
Hi, I'm Luke.
Hi, I'm Callum. I work as a senior functional consultant.
I signed up for this because it sounded something that I hadn't seen anywhere else.
It's showing how to use the whole platform and how to build better solutions that can last a long time.
I don't have a background in software. And given that it's changing so fast every single day, I needed a guided way of learning. If the solution architect is the direction I want to go, I have taken something from every day of those classes and have applied them to my work.
Go to untethered365.com, promo code SPRINT0.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Sprint Zero podcast. My name is Mike Gowland and I'm here with my co-partner rat in crime, John Russell. Say hello, John.
Hello, how are you? You alright?
I am good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Yes.
I should probably say actually.
Nice shirt today, Mike.
Thank you very much. Yeah, this is another £3 vintage job. So today we have the wizard herself, Kat Schneider. Kat is an experienced data specialist, a Power Platform, SharePoint and Teams enthusiast, and an MVP. Kat has a degree in biology from Florida State University and has over 15 years of experience working in the public sector. Kat is a self-taught coder with a never-ending thirst for learning and helping others to learn and better their coding skills. Welcome to the podcast, Kat. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Nice. We were talking about your background just before, and we touched on velociraptors and the calendar that's not being used calendar, which I think we'll come to the calendar bit later on. So welcome to the podcast, Kat. Really appreciate you coming on. Could you tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got into the space?
Ooh, Elle, how much time do you have? Because that is a story for you.
We have. I tell you what, we've got all the time in the world, but my wife has just texted me to say that she's had a wine and will be picking up at some point. So she can. All right,
I'll try to keep it short and sweet. So, like you said, I graduated Florida State with a degree in biology. That was a while ago, and I immediately joined on with the state of Florida as an inspector for construction projects. And while in that job, I kind of took on many hats, as most people do, especially those of us with ADHD. We take on the many hats of many skills. And I picked up learning different, formulas and whatnot in Excel. And then I found my way to Access and SQL, where I started to learn how to, extract data out of databases. And then, spent 11 years with the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, building those skills, working with developers, building various internal projects. And one of the projects that I was working on realized, hey, there's a lot of information our phone specialists, they don't have readily available to them. And they're going to need this, especially if people are starting to call in more and more and ask questions. So I built an Access database that used the information that was already stored in our data systems to go out and get to the Google Maps, of a facility that was calling in and needed to, know more about, where are their outfalls, what's going on with their projects, what do they need to test, all kinds of different things. But it also gave them access to our internal data or document management system so that they had access to the historical records. It gave them access to the OSHA website so they could look up SIC codes. It was a thing. But I came up against an issue where every time I went to try and access the document management system, the records would show up in a different order. So they would either be in, chronological or reverse chronological order, depending on what you were just looking at. So I went to talk to one of my developer friends who was working on the actual project that I ended up building this thing for. And I was like, what do you think? Like, how can I do this? And I kind of walked him through it, and he's like, what are you doing here? Why are you with the state? You are wasting your potential here. You should be in Silicon Valley. And I'm like, no, like that. I'm not about that. I'm not about, programming and doing all that. Like, this is it. I'm all about helping other people. Like, yeah, you can help other people programming and whatnot, but like, I'm more with my ADHD, which I only discovered later on in life. It was something where it's like, I'm okay riding the struggle bus if it means somebody else doesn't have to. If somebody doesn't have to check that card today. So, I'm used to it. Like, I'll take that on if somebody else, can get a pass for the day. So, I was like, that's not really for me, but, maybe. And then I had an offer to go potentially work for a consulting firm. And it turned out that I, waited too long for that because, ADHD can never make up my mind. And I ended up missing out on that opportunity. But then like a year and a half later, I got another opportunity to go to Florida Department of Transportation and got to see, another state agency at another level up towards the top. I was in organizational development there. I was for quality assurance and doing the employee survey, and then ended up helping with the training and the policy and process management group and all of that, and ended up on some of the secretaries' like innovation team and helping out with their talent team. And part of where I was at, they were responsible for the mentoring program. And so I went through the mentoring program, I think within the first few months of being there at the department, and ended up with somebody in our GIS section. Because I was always been very curious about data. And FDOT was one of these agencies that I was like, what is their purpose exactly? Like, I feel like they're just there to hire construction companies to, put these things up everywhere and impede everybody's flow of traffic and getting to work. So got with the GIS group, spent 6 months in there, just learning about all of the different things, learned about roundabouts. That was eye-opening for me because I don't know about you guys, but here in the US, we do not have many roundabouts. And when people go to roundabouts, they don't know what to do.
We have an abundance of roundabouts. Would you like some?
We've got a roundabout, Cat, near me. It's called the Magic Roundabout. And it's 5 roundabouts around a roundabout.
Oh, dear Lord. I think people...
Have you never seen it?
I think I've heard
Mike
of
should
this
try and
before.
Yeah.
But everybody would die if they were ever forced to use it.
It's actually closer to me, John, than it is you. It's the Magic Roundabout in Swindon, isn't it?
No, this is the Magic Roundabout in Hemel Hempstead.
Oh.
Maybe 2.
There's 2, yeah.
More than one magic roundabout? Is it a vortex? Is it a wormhole?
Oh, yeah.
Like, you go through it, and the next thing you know, you're in the other place?
Wow.
Have a look at that, Kat.
Oh, my word. And you guys drive on the road. So...
It's also 45 years old.
Nope. That is not...
I think I've driven through it once, and I survived, so...
I would go through it and just be screaming the whole time, hoping to make it to the other side.
Can I share my screen? Oh, no,
there is a Hemel Hempstead Magic Roundabout.
Yeah, there you go. Look at that bad boy.
Oh, my. It's one giant...
So you've got... Yeah, there you go. There's a nice little...
I think I could handle that one. The other one, though... Yeah, no, there's just a bunch of screaming. Like, God forbid I have my windows down, because people would definitely start calling the cops. So... But yeah, I
But
learned.
it's a common occurrence here, so it's it'd just
Yeah,
be
it's
considered
Apart from
normal if
Milton
you were
Keynes,
swearing
I
out
would
your
say
window.
apart from Milton Keynes, but there's a few Milton Keynes.
Yeah.
yeah. It seems like there's a lot more roundabouts per capita in the UK than there is in the US.
We love a good roundabout.
Yeah, here they don't know what to do. Do we stop? Do we yield to everybody inside? Do we just go and hope for the best? What's going on? But yeah, so I learned about roundabouts. I learned about how we were incorporating AI data, all of this information. I mean, millions and millions of lines of data almost hourly for the Florida Department of Transportation. So, and like, let's not forget hurricane season. That's an entirely different story. So I learned a lot in that group. And so then when I got out of the 6-month mentoring period, that was what, late 2019. And then I had the employee survey, which started in January of 2020. And then I was responsible for this, but I didn't have any documentation. I didn't have any idea of how this system had been working. It was an internally built system from basically 20 years ago. And there was no real, how does this work? How does this spit any information out? How did they generate records from the years previous? Nothing. It was basically BPJ, figure it out. So at the end of that survey, I was creating 502 individual reports in Excel, and they had to be converted to PDF. So I had to upload an Excel document and a PDF document. And then every time there was something wrong, I wanted to scream, cry, yell to the heavens, light it all on fire. I was not a happy camper. Well, then we, of course, had COVID. Everything shut down. Everybody went home. And then about mid-June, early July, I got a notification from the lady who was running our mentoring program. And she's like, hey, got some good news for you, but I can't announce it yet. And I was like, okay. And like a week later, she was like, you've been paired with Greg Smiley, our CIO, in the mentoring program. So that was like the first big step to the Power Platform.
Nice.
And now I should also back up a little bit. I was baptized by fire in SharePoint when I got to FDOT, because I had to create an entire, basically a QA system for everybody to upload all of their audits. Never done anything with workflows, never done anything with SharePoint Designer. SharePoint at FDEP was basically a glorified Excel spreadsheet. We didn't have access to anything. So baptized by fire in SharePoint, FDOT, very much a SharePoint place. Learned that very quickly. Ended up with our CIO. Very first meeting, I had actually just been in the middle of watching a LinkedIn Learning video on Power BI. Got to talking to him. What was I interested in learning? This, that, and the other. He's like, hey, so I have another Power BI license. Are you interested? And I was like, how many times can I say yes? Can I get that yesterday? What's going on here? And so I spent half hour with him for the next 4 weeks, basically trying to unravel Power BI and how it was working and how it was gathering data, and trying to figure out Power Query and DAX and all of that. And at the end of that 4 weeks, I had basically a dashboard of all of our employee survey results. And I was like, but look at this. I can click here and this whole thing will update. And the biggest kicker for me was clicking on the strongly disagree to I am paid for the value that I provide, or some version of that question, which has been the lowest scoring question for all 20 years previously. And I was like, these 634 people, I click on this. Now we can see overall how they feel about all these other areas of, the survey. I was like, before you didn't have this kind of insight. You couldn't, you had a one-dimensional report. Now we have a three-dimensional report. We can start to see how these people feel about the other areas, the training, the leadership, the support, like all of these other aspects. Yeah, there's probably some things that we can do that maybe we can't give them more pay, but we can, improve in these areas, and they might feel like they're getting paid more. So he's like, "Well, you present this to our statewide OIT meeting in a few weeks." And I was like, "Sure, as long as everybody understands I'm not an expert by any means." Presented that. A couple months later, we had the beginnings of a community of practice for Power BI. And by the time I left there, almost 2-3 years later, no, it was about 2 years later, we had over 300 volunteers, basically active community members in that community of practice, learning monthly, daily, working in teams, helping each other out. It was kind of like the community forums, but, internally. And so I was helping to grow those communities. Found my way to Power Apps, best thing since sliced bread. Because I was like, hey, all of those forums and reports.
Canvas apps or model driven?
It was very much Canvas apps because we had no money for Dataverse. Like that was not a thing.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
it's possible to love both, John.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe.
I'm very much a Canvas apps person because I love the ability to customize what I need to customize and not be locked into needing to know a whole nother language in order to do something.
Yeah, I'm like a rules man. So that's why model driven apps sing to me, because I'm stick to the rules.
So on that question of code, we said in the intro that you are a self-taught coder. How did you find that journey of teaching yourself to code? I presume, obviously, I was self-taught as well to a degree, but I'm still on that journey and still learning, right?
Yeah.
Anything that you...
So the way I equate it is like I went to FSU, learned biology. I also went to FSU for studio art later on. But whenever anybody asks, well, how did you learn this? I was like, Google University. Google you. Like that's honestly what it was. Between Stack Overflow and just random, blog posts and whatnot. That's how I picked up Visual Basic. Figured that out. Figured out SQL that way. Figured out CSS, JavaScript, HTML, XML, all those different letters in alphabet soup. It was all usually through Google that I found what it was that I was trying to do. So, I became a Google Foo master in searching. Learned that, you don't need to put it in the form of a question when you're doing a Google search, because now that's a bunch of excess that is trying to, find. And then I ended up, figuring out how to do this. So when we have Copilot, where it's like, oh no, this is a conversational search. I'm like, wait, huh? I got to do what? This isn't working for me. Like, I spent so much time crafting these skills. What are you talking about?
Now you have to change.
And I think that's why people struggle with prompting, right? Because we've spent so long, like, refining these key terms to search. And we've spent so long, like, making that craft of the Google Foo. And actually now, you just have to ask in a clear, concise manner, not in a very coded way.
You have to add the fluff back in. After I learned how to remove all of the fluff, now I got to make it fluffy again.
But not too much fluff.
Right. Because too much fluff.
Just the right amount of fluff.
There's nothing wrong with fluffiness.
There's nothing wrong with fluffiness.
No. I see you've recently just moved from being a Power Platform developer to senior software engineer. Are you still involved in the Power Platform though, or is that have you now got like kind of a wider remit?
Actually, it's weird how those titles shifted and the job roles shifted. So I'm 100% in the Power Platform right now. So after the first Microsoft Power Platform conference, when I left that conference, I actually had 2 job offers, one from Microsoft and one from a little company out in California. It was an MSP. And it was a difficult decision, but I did tell Microsoft no. And I went with this MSP. And so there it was, hey, this is the problem that our customer is having. Let's try and figure out the solution. It may or may not involve Power Platform. And so one of the very last projects that I was potentially taking on was a Salesforce project in developing in Salesforce. And I was like, hold on, I know nothing about developing in Salesforce, and everything that I know from developer friends, this is not something you can take just lightly. You can just pick up and do this. Hold on, this isn't going to work. And now where I'm at is all Power Platform all the time. But I also have an entire team of other Power Platform and more specialists that I can like ping and be like, hey, what is it that I'm not thinking of? Like somebody
those Power Platform people are on your team, yeah?
They
So
are
do you
part of
find it?
my team. But
Yeah, okay. And do you find it hard to delegate sometimes?
Oh, 100%. I am not a person to delegate, so do not put me in charge of people.
Yeah.
I can barely keep track of my own
Okay.
life and my family's life. Please do not try and get me to keep track of somebody else. It's hard enough already. So it's not to say that I can't. I am the oldest child, so I naturally developed skills in that area, but like they can only go so far. You know, I replaced my brother and sister with my husband and child. So that's about as far as I can cope with it. But yeah, I'm on a team of very well-known Power Platform specialists. And happens to be that the one person that I had learned all of the Power Platform from, between him and the YouTuber and, April Dunham, who, like, absolute idols and heroes of mine, I ended up meeting Matthew Devaney at the Microsoft Power Platform conference, just randomly. And then through a previous coworker of mine who was supposed to be there, I was like, hey, so you know this person, I know this person, let's take a picture and send it to him because he can't make it. And then ended up going out to dinner with a whole group of people and just like really bonded as friends. And he kind of has helped me along my journey. And then a few months ago, he reached out and he's like, hey, let me get your resume. And now I'm working with him and he is my manager. And it is the most insane experience to, open up Teams every morning and see everybody's names that I've known from the community, that, I've interacted with online through Twitter and LinkedIn, and just, these are my coworkers. Like, I have a built-in support system and, networking relationship with all of these people already, and now we're just like working together and building cool things.
Amazing, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's been an incredible journey over the last couple of years to even like be here. So yeah,
no, that's awesome. So, Kat, we have a section, it's a regular section on this podcast, and it's called Uncomfortable Corner. Uncomfortable Corner.
Oh, I did not line that up Drag Race style the right way. I missed it by
We can go again if you want.
All right, hold on. Ready? Go.
Okay, all right. Go. Let's give it a minute. Uncomfortable Corner.
Nice. For the benefit of the tape, Kat was doing a really good tricking bass there.
So, Kat, when was the last time you felt uncomfortable, whether it was in or out of work? How did you feel and how did you manage to get through it?
So actually that's kind of how I got in touch with John. This was like a couple of months ago. And he had posted out on Twitter basically like a, hey, sometimes things are not always easy, and stuff happens. And I had, responded, and I was like, yeah, I've just been stuck in this funk for months. I'm not depressed. I'm just, I don't know if it's burnt out or what's going on, but it's just like, can't do anything right. It's just, my ADHD has just really got me down. And it ended up being that I was working on a project for a client, and my boss was out of town, understandably, for some family. And she's another one who, she's never not working. So like whenever she goes out of town, I try very hard to not bug her, because I know everybody else inside the organization is bugging her for one thing or another. And it was, well, I've got to get this thing done for this particular project, but my ADHD got the better of me, and I ended up spending almost the entire week in a rabbit hole that I could not get myself out of. And Monday mornings we had our one-on-ones, and it was like, okay, so what's going on this week? What were your stucks last week? What can I help you with? Just, hey, what's going on? And I just broke down crying to her. I was like, I am so sorry. I have no answer for why it happened other than my ADHD, but I also don't want to say that it's just my ADHD, because it does feel like a cop-out when I say that, because there's so much more behind it than it's just my ADHD. Like, all of the factors that go into it. And so I completely broke down, and I was like, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to respond. Like, I don't even want to charge the client for these hours that I spent, because my brain just took over and I couldn't get out of it. So it was really, really hard.
You can rabbit holes can be good and bad, right? Though.
Yeah.
I mean, if it wasn't for my ADHD, I don't think, and Mike probably agrees, I don't think we would have gone anywhere as far as we did with AI and all of that kind of stuff. We would have just skimmed the surface, really, and wouldn't have done much more with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does have its negatives massively. Yes.
Yeah. It's a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because I can, put things together that other people are just like, how did you get from here to here? Because nothing about these two things is even remotely related. But then I can't seem to figure out how to, maintain a calendar, or, pick up a phone and call somebody to take care of something, or, the regular ADHD tax where you buy something and realize, oh, this isn't going to work out. So, well, now it's yours forever because you're never taking it back to the store.
Yes.
It's like,
I'm surprised how much of what you just said there resonates with me as well. And John knows I'm terrible with calendars.
Yeah, I mean, I've learnt to cope and have calendars. I mean, I've got calendars everywhere. I've got one on my phone, got one on my, my Outlook is color coded. My wife keeps a calendar, so I didn't realize, like you, Kat, I didn't realize I had ADHD until only like tail end of last year.
Oh man!
And as soon as I kind of found that out, there was quite a lot of things that kind of fell into place. So for people who go through like late diagnosis, like I think we all have, what would you say is one bit of advice for those people?
That one I have been mulling over, just because I don't know that I have just one piece of advice for somebody who's going through that late diagnosis. Mainly it's, don't beat yourself up for not knowing, because, turns out we're really great with our coping mechanisms and masking. So, it doesn't just readily make itself available to anybody else outside. But also finding a community, finding people who also get it, who understand it, who have figured out there's no right or wrong way of dealing with this other than, the wrong way is to just not deal with it and hope for the best. But also learning that there's no one way of dealing with your ADHD. As soon as you find something that works, more than likely it's going to stop working. So it's that constant, trying to find the next thing that's going to work and help you to get through the day or get through the week and just, be a productive member of society. So the biggest thing that I found, especially after that incident, was having an accountability partner, somebody to hold you to task, whether it's, just sitting with you, even on Teams call, like nobody has to say anything. You can just be working. It's that whole concept of body doubling. Like I wouldn't do it if there wasn't somebody there sitting there with me to be like, hey, so how's it going? What's going on? Do you need anything? And that's one of the things that I like about where I'm at now is there's so many of us who do struggle with ADHD that we recognize some of the habits or the things that are going on, that we can just be like, hey, how are you? How are things going? What's going on? Do you need help with anything? Or, hey, do we need to have like a recurring meeting where we just sit down and we work? We don't have to say anything, but we're on camera. So we know that we're there and we're holding each other mentally accountable for something. So that, but also finding that I'm in an organization that recognizes that we all have these struggles. And one, besides like trying to get it out there that these struggles are real, they put resources out there to help with some of these coping mechanisms and strategies and whatnot. So bringing awareness to it and trying to get others to somewhat understand what the struggle is like, even though like that's the hardest thing I think for people to understand is, even though I look fine on the outside, I am 100% not on the inside.
Yeah.
So
and I think that's all about talking about it though, and taking these opportunities to discuss it, get it out in the open. And I think I don't know what the US is like, but over here I think there seems to have been quite a big shift to understanding neurodiverse conditions and making it more in, how can I say it,
it's less
more in
taboo.
the kind of daily kind of dialogue kind of thing. Would you say that's the same in the States?
I think it's like this constant struggle back and forth about, hey, we need to talk about mental health, but hey, this is just taking up too much time, but we still need the support, but we don't have the resources, but we should be doing something, but we're not ready. And it's like kind of like Copilot, whether or not you're ready, it's coming. You got to deal with it. And it's better to deal with it now head on than it is to wait until it's a bigger issue. And I definitely think COVID has contributed a lot to it. Just, after the MVP summit, I ended up with COVID. It's the worst case of COVID I've had since, it first appeared on the scene. But I had COVID in January of 2020. Like right in the middle of the employee survey, and I was still working through 103-degree fever, and I was like, oh no, I'm fine, I'm working from home, blah blah blah. I ended up with a severe case of brain fog that when I went to the therapist, they're like, you probably are experiencing what's they're starting to term long COVID, where you continue to maintain these struggles, but that brain fog and that long COVID ended up amplifying some of the issues that I was having with my ADHD. So, you know, if people just were barely on the precipice of being diagnosed and then they ended up with COVID, well, maybe now that's what put them into that category. And so that's why we're seeing such an increase.
Yeah. Funny enough, that's actually how I started my diagnosis journey. Was after getting COVID and having brain fog.
Yeah. And, you know, it's having these conversations, it leads to other people starting to question, well, maybe that's what's wrong with me. Like, I never really thought there was anything wrong with me. I just thought I was a garbage piece of human. And really,
No,
it's
not garbage piece of human.
no, that is honestly what went through my brain all the time before my diagnosis. That I was just a garbage piece of human. Because I couldn't make a phone call, or I couldn't, you know, send an email, or it would take me an hour and a half to write up something that should only take about 10 minutes. So
Did you ever feel like you were like, because I always felt like I was a slow learner and that I was just like slow in general. Did you ever feel that about yourself before the diagnosis?
So I did not have that portion of ADHD. So my brother was actually diagnosed ADHD when he was very young. And so part of the reason why I was never diagnosed at a younger age was because I was always excelling in school. I didn't have any like behavioral problems. I didn't go through a lot of the same struggles that he went through. But it turns out that is because there's less known about ADHD in females and how females are affected by it. So it turns out that, I was 100% struggling, because I can't tell you how many times I would come up to a writing assignment and it was like I would rather you pull all the nails out of my nail beds than write an assignment.
Yeah.
And like it was a struggle all the time. But for myself, I didn't have to study when I was going through school. I just absorbed all of the knowledge that they put in front of me. And it wasn't until I got to college that I realized I was wholly unprepared for how college was set up. So my very first semester in college, like on my own, because I had taken college classes while I was in high school, just out on my own, I was like, I have no idea what's going on. Here's my first F. And like going from a straight A student to F, that right there should have been a sign. But
that's interesting. That's interesting, because I did okay up to my GCSE level, which was about I'm like 14, 15, maybe 15, 16. And then when I moved to A levels, that was it. It was like, nah. Just not happening.
I think it was okay when I was taking college classes in high school, because I took like my freshman year of college while I was still in high school. And, you know, that was basically all of my liberal arts courses. So when I got to college, there were very few liberal arts courses credits that I needed before I got into here's the actual coursework, the things that you need to study for. Like, I didn't know how to study. Honest to God, had no idea how to study. Not until the very like last year that I was in college did I finally figure out, okay, this is how somebody is supposed to study for an exam. So like my last college class, my last exam, it was one of those ones where it's like, if I don't pass this, like I'm done regardless of what happens. If I don't pass this, I'm supposed to get kicked out of the biology program, out of the School of Arts and Sciences or something like that. And I had to go find another major that would accept the majority of my credits, but I would still have to take more classes. So that wasn't going to happen. Or I passed this exam and I walk next week. So it was, it is what it is at this point. Hopefully I'm walking.
So yeah, I think at some point, Kat, we're going to have like a part 2 with you. Like some of the stuff that you say is really, really, really interesting.
I felt like we've scratched the surface, not just cat pun too much, but
I mean, we could go on for days about this.
I know.
I like the idea of days of content as well, so let's do it.
Right?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
However, because we are kind of running out of time this time, you can find Kat on LinkedIn, X, and on you'reawizardcat.com website.
You're a wizard, Cat.
That's an amazing brand. Well done. That's great. Links to resources mentioned in this episode will be in the show notes. Music today was provided by Ken Like Fit, and you can find his music on Spotify, the link to which you can find in the episode show notes. Additional music used in the episode is also credited there. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't get to miss the next episode, and we'd really appreciate you to give us a follow on LinkedIn if you're enjoying it, and also maybe a cheeky 5-star review on your chosen podcast platform. Thank you very much. This has been Sprint Zero, and we've been Mike Gallen. Say goodbye, Mike.
Goodbye, Mike.
And Kat Schneider. Say goodbye, Kat.
Goodbye, Kat.
See you later. And I'm John. See you on the next episode of Sprint.
It says in the show notes that you're Mike.
Yeah, well, ignore those. Love you, Mike.
Love you too, John.
Love you, Kat.
Love you guys.
I'm Sean. I run the Architects Accelerator. It's an 8-week training program to help you become a solutions architect. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you how awesome it is. We're just going to hear from previous participants.
My name's Mike Colling.
My name is Sander.
Hi, I'm Danielle.
Hi, I'm Luke.
Hi, I'm Callum. I work as a senior functional consultant.
I signed up for this because it sounded something I hadn't seen anywhere else.
And that's what I liked about this course, is that we were focusing about taking the right requirement and proposing to the customer the right solution.
It's showing how to use the whole platform and how to build better solutions that could last a long time.
I don't have a background in software. And given that it's changing so fast every single day, I needed a guided way of learning. If the solution architect is the direction I want to go, I have taken something from every day of those classes and have applied them to my work.
Found it really useful and really enjoyed it.
Use promo code SPRINT0 to get $50 off.